So I made a documentary about police and sort of the crime within Bodmin and Cornwall, the surrounding areas, and sort of the increase in how it's affecting people within the community. I think I chose this because there's been an awful lot of increase in crime within the news, and especially in things like Cornwall Live, you see a lot of it these days. So I think I kind of just wanted to interview someone that worked in the police to see if that's actually true or if it's false media.
A couple of things that I wouldn't mind you asking, if you wouldn't mind answering. One specifically about Bodmin, as in Bodmin's got a slightly rough reputation,
Yes.
and I want to explore whether or not that's true, or from a professional point of view, if you'd be happy to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, my family relocated down this part of the world, and I've been around Devon, Plymouth and Cornwall since, and ended up in Bodmin, which has been great the last 2 years or so now. Local residents of Bodmin have been really supportive. So since I took over, there's been a lot of trials and tribulations with the crimes that have obviously taken place, some really significant incidents. Most namely, obviously, the murder of Mike Allen specifically. That really did rock the community, and we've been working really hard with them ever since, rebuilding the impact that had on the local community, and making sure that trust and public confidence is with the local community and their local policing team. So the murder of Mike Allen was on Castle Cannock Road, where he was fatally stabbed, and the mention specific around a knife crime and the elevation of knife crime into the public view in Cornwall as a result of that. It was probably one of the most significant incidents that we had here locally and across the force for quite some time, and very high profile for the local area. As I say, the family of Mike have been absolutely incredible in terms of the work they've done in creating their charity and pushing that forward in his memory, and the amount of outreach work that they are doing is completely commendable. Working hard with local people, and specifically young people, to highlight the dangers of knife crime and hopefully prevent them from carrying themselves.
Those community events, could you go a little bit more into that? Is there anything with schools or?
So we do an awful lot with schools, so a lot of outreach with schools. We've got dedicated officers that go into the schools and deliver assemblies on different packages. You name it, they will deliver it. Most specifically, Bodmin last year obviously got an awful lot of knife crime inputs, but we also have different themes throughout the year which we otherwise explore. One of those might be knife crime, one of those might be county lines, and different signs of exploitation. But we work incredibly close with the schools as just one particular asset. Other partners such as Safer Cornwall, the County Council, the Fire Service, we work really closely with all our partners to generate as much work collectively as we possibly can for that joint long-term problem-solving approach. We haven't seen a significant rise in knife crime. Obviously there was a significant incident which has caused an increase in awareness, which is really important and certainly something which shouldn't be ignored. I would say that habitual knife carrying is becoming more of a discussion point, particularly amongst our young people within the educational sector, and it's something that they have seen nationally more often. That said, I don't believe there to be an increase in knife crime in Cornwall specifically, and again, Bodmin falls within that category. I think that the perception is that the habitual knife carriers feel safer carrying a knife. However, the truth in that is very much the reverse. You're more likely to use it if you have it. You're also more likely to accidentally injure yourself should you cause into any sort of scuffle or fight with any particular person. And at the end of the day, you're not protecting yourself, you're making yourself more vulnerable to attract that type of issue. So I certainly wouldn't be taking one out, and I would heavily discourage any person to do that, because it is a criminal offence to do so, and we will act robustly if we are to find you in possession of a knife.
Is there anything being done to try and stop these people, particularly younger people, from carrying knives?
So there's a lot of prevention work taking place. We've spoken about the schools and the outreach within that particular sector. Local charities are engaging young people with specific campaigns to ensure that they are aware of the risks of carrying a knife and the ultimate sacrifice that may come at the end of that. There are various online resources that Devon and Cornwall Police also push out, which are made available to parents, to teachers and to young people themselves, depending on your role and perspective on that habitual knife carrier potentially. And as I say, we have the power to stop and search individuals out in public should we suspect them to be carrying a weapon or a knife, and then any sort of consequence that comes from that, as I say, will be dealt with robustly. Obviously our geography makes things very challenging. Obviously we have a very spread out community, lots of rural little villages on the moorland, as well as a town centre, really busy road network. Whilst it's not a motorway, it is our motorway, the A30 going straight through us, a really busy railway station, and the gateway into Cornwall, some have referred to it as. So some unique sets of challenges, definitely, which make it a really interesting place to work. I think it's a problem nationally. It's not specifically located to Bodmin that it is an issue. Naturally, there will be drug pockets or pockets of drug activity, in various places as and when you go. I wouldn't say that there is a specific drug problem within Bodmin. And naturally it's the wider exploitation issue across the county, across Devon and Cornwall and across the country that we really need to be mindful of and tackle collectively moving forward. So County Lines specifically is essentially a drugs operation which runs across counties without borders, largely through use of various mobile phones and movement of quantities of illicit substances, aka drugs, via individuals across the transport network across the country. There is an awful lot of exploitation that takes place of young and vulnerable people, namely drug users, in order to supply or carry drugs in order to fill a specific demand somewhere. So, and with drug supply becomes ASB, comes violence, and various other negative connotations which have a really detrimental impact upon our society. So it's really important that we do protect the vulnerable, criminalise those that are taking part in that activity, and ensure that we look after our communities as best as we can. So largely, if you see something that doesn't look right, if you see something which concerns you, it may be the missing piece of the puzzle that we'd otherwise need in order to really making that significant breakthrough. So if you're seeing activity at really strange hours of the day, comings and goings from different addresses, that may be something that we need to know about. So please feel free to get in touch via our website or via 101 or Crime Stoppers, and we can certainly look to look into the matter for you. You mentioned specifically cuckooing. So the exploitation of the extreme vulnerable in order to use their address for various drug dealing activity. Yes, that is something that we do look at again, and we rely heavily upon community intelligence to know about activity within these various properties to ensure that we can then look after those most vulnerable. Well, as I say, we're really working hard with partners to make sure that our community networks are as hard as possibly can and really difficult to infiltrate. That information sharing is crucial between our partnerships, which I'm pleased to say is a really good thing that we have here in Cornwall. As I say, we really do pursue those that are taking part in drug supply activities within our county, and we look to achieve significant results with the Crown Prosecution Service, in the criminal courts. And then we also really need to make sure that we work hard towards tackling addiction and making individuals and communities specifically even harder to penetrate as a result of the enticement of drug use.
And just a little bit about you. What part of being a police officer do you find the most rewarding?
Most rewarding? It's different every day, and you see people at their best and see people at their worst. And to be largely there at their worst and be that reassurance and provide that safety for that particular person at that particular time is the most rewarding thing about being a police officer. Plenty. Ultimately, I will say that the force works really well together as a team attending these really significant incidents, and that's unfortunately within Cornwall we've had an awful lot of difficulty with various serious incidents in the last 12 months. And the teams have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes and in the public eye through incredible challenges to overcome them and get some really good results within the criminal justice system. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that. It will be different every day, completely. You have no idea what you're going to or what you're going to be exposed to on those particular days. It's a real challenge, don't get me wrong. However, it is an incredibly rewarding career, and I would encourage anyone to come forward and go for it. I'd like to continue to build the trust and public confidence that we're currently trying really hard to re-establish. Naturally, as I said earlier, there's been a real negative press around various events which have been handled in a certain way which hasn't met the way the public would otherwise like to have seen them happen, and that obviously has a knock-on effect us moving forward into the future. So the relationships that we've managed to establish with partners and local residents here, I'm really keen to build upon. We represent the community that we serve, and there's an awful lot of proud people that work in the building behind you, and I hope that we can continue to gain and build upon that trust and public confidence moving forward to make that information sharing ever more powerful to achieve even better results. From the outside looking in, Bodmin has a fairly rough reputation, but from working here and from being part of the local community police, I can say that is a misconception. I think it is a misunderstanding, and certainly in terms of a crime statistic point of view, that isn't reflective upon the rest of Cornwall. Statistically, it is a safe place. We live in a safe part of the country in comparison to the rest of the UK, and specifically in terms of force area, Bodmin, I would say, certainly exceeds its reputation. It is incredibly community driven. There is an awful lot of community groups that are scattered throughout the town and the beyond that do an awful lot of good work with an awful lot of people, and I think it's really important to acknowledge the work that they are doing.